Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the Kunwu Knives Compadre. I don't think it's any surprise that I love the Padre. This was my original frame lock version, and this one in Van X Super Clean. Yeah, I absolutely love this knife, and I didn't even think I wanted a smaller version until he gave us one. But that's one cool thing about Kunwu is, especially on popular models, not only does he give you maybe a more compact version, he gives you different blade steels in some of them, different locking mechanisms, like on this Kunwu X-Padre with the crossbar lock. Now I go back and forth from day to day on which one of these two I like most and carry most. You know, I was on a kick with the crossbar lock version, but I think the frame lock version has now made its way back in my pocket a little bit more. But both of them, silky smooth action. The X-Padre is in LMAX steel, another great steel. Kunwu only uses high-end super steels, and they heat treat them to the proper HRC. That's awesome. We don't see that enough in the knife community. So here's the more compact version of that larger knife. My particular version is the reverse tux with the satin DLC coated blade and the silver bead blasted diamond texture tie, my favorite texture that Kunwu does. Then you have, I'm guessing that's Damascus pivot collars or laser etch, one of the two. It looks nice, whatever it is. Gives it a nice little pop of color there. They have two other versions. You can get it with a dark blasted stonewash finish like this one right here. And you can also get it with a satin blade and these silver bead blasted tie scales. The stonewash and the satin blades are the more affordable options at $279. The reverse tux, being that it has a DLC blade, comes in at $299. If at the end of this review you're interested in this knife, I will have it linked down in the description. It will be an affiliate link, so if you're already buying it and you want to help support the channel, that is awesome. It helps me pay for my testing materials. If not, no biggie. So this is an excellent EDC size, at least for me, at 7.08 inches. It has a 2.95 inch blade, so it's going to be legal in all areas that have 3 and under blade restrictions. And the Compadre is also in Van X Super Clean, and he's Rockwelling them from 60 to 62. If I had to take a guess, I would say that this version is closer to the 60 mark because of that DLC. It's going to drop the HRC down a point or two, and that's totally fine. We'll be testing it in just a second. So you still have a nice versatile blade here, because if you look, that tip is still in the center of that pivot, so I can still use that tip to make drag cuts, precision cuts, piercing, and obviously you have way enough belly to cut on a flat cutting surface. And because that edge is sitting below the scales right here in this pinch grip, you can get pretty much the entire edge on the flat cutting surface before you come in contact with the scales or your hands. I think about 1/8 of the edge isn't contacting that surface, but I think that's more than enough edge to do what you need to do. You have a nice needle-like tip, great for piercing. It has a small little thumb ramp right there with some nice effective grippy jimping. It grabs a hold of my thumb perfectly without being uncomfortable. You got a nice little top swedge for some flare and to thin out that tip some. And we also have a full forward finger choil that fits my medium-sized finger perfectly. And it also doubles as a sharpening choil, so you'll have tons of sharpening life before you even think about flaring out at the heel. We have a nice broad blade with a high flat grind that is ground nice and thin to around 15 thousandths behind the edge, and mine is sharpened at 20 degrees per side from factory. I can't wait to see how it performs. Like pretty much all my Kunwu knives, this one came with an outstanding edge from the factory, and it's slicing very, very well. I'm pretty sure if it's anything like its bigger brother, it's got good edge geometry. And Van X is a great steel. It holds a good edge, really good edge, as long as it's heat treated properly. And that's one thing I love about Kunwu. They always try to hit the optimal heat treat, the optimal HRC for a performance heat treat. So always nice to see that, especially at the prices you get these at. They're not custom prices. Now we're testing the ergos, and just like on the cardboard and this, I felt much more comfortable in the choke up position. I can get right up to that edge. I don't have to worry about getting hung up in that choil area. And I'm really bearing down right here. I mean, really, really hard. And maybe at the very end, I could kind of feel the back corner of the pocket clip. But, I mean, I was bearing down. You can see, I mean, I'm pushing all my might into the end of that piece of wood. And here you can see how it's just popping this half-inch sisal rope. Effortless. And then you definitely have enough belly to do any kind of cuts on a flat cutting surface. I'm doing almost like a rocking motion cut because I'm using that pointer finger grip in the beginning. You see me swapping back and forth. I'll do this for two reasons. Whenever I do the pointer finger grip, that just lets you know that the knife is pretty darn sharp. And I'll swap back just because I'm trying not to get I got a permanent blister on my bottom of my index finger and my palm where it meets, and it's constantly hurting every time I do one of these tests. So I'm just trying to give it a break. So anytime the knife is sharp enough, you'll see me swap to that pointer finger grip, and it's always a pleasure whenever they have that toothiness to the edge and it's still nice and sharp, not over polished like some companies love to do. I forget, I think we cut, I think it was 170 cuts before I ran out of this piece I cut. And like I always say, I'm not testing for edge retention, just making sure I don't cut 10 cuts and it's dull as can be. Then there's probably something wrong. Or making sure there's no chipping to the edge or no rolling, because if that did happen, then there would be an issue with the heat treat, or the edge had got burnt from getting sharpened on a belt. So neither one of those things happened. Everything was nice and clean, comfortable, and yeah, it's a joy so far up until this point. As you can see, you can still use that tip to make the drag cuts, or you can use the belly, whichever one you prefer. And the edge is still nice and crisp, just popping all this stuff rather easily, rather quickly. And I was kind of worried that the DLC would cause a little drag with the tubing, but it wasn't an issue whatsoever. Either with the dense cardboard, kind of corner cardboard, either 10-ounce denim. Yeah, it was like it wasn't even there. Excellent blade shape to do this type of cutting. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this one just as much as I did its bigger brother. Well, I thought it performed great, and it's going to perform even better after I put my own edge on it. So let's take a look at the deployment and action of this knife. You have a front flipper with jimps up top, sits above the top of the scales, and then you have this blade hole. My favorite means of deployment, reverse flick. It works outstanding and nice and smooth action. I can thumb flick it. Got a nice crisp break to that detent. It's riding on ceramic bearings with a ceramic detent ball. If I want, I can even slow roll it. Yeah, very nicely done there on the action on my particular knife. Let's close it up. Take a look at these scales. Like I said earlier, you have the beautiful diamond textured tie. Not only looks stunning, it also offers a good bit of traction. You have Torx T8 throughout, except for your pocket clip, which is Torx T6. Not a big deal to me because you don't have to remove the pocket clip. The pocket clip is tip up, right or left-handed carry. One thing that I do wish I would have seen, or actually two things I wish I would have seen when it comes to the pocket clip area. First, I would love to see a flat spot on top of this texture just so it's not ripping my pants up. And I would love to start seeing this lock relief cutout done on the inside because it's awfully close to there. I had no issues yet. I wore this in my lightweight shorts a good bit. I wasn't getting bunched up, but I don't know how it will do in my jeans. It looks like it should be okay because the retention point is a little bit further than it's up here. So I don't know. It's not a deep carry. However, it sits fairly deep in the pocket. You do have a lanyard hole integrated into the titanium backspacer that is also coated black on this one. Geared pattern there. Sits a little proud of the scales. Does offer a little bit of traction. Don't really notice it whenever I'm using the knife. Let's take a look at the inside. We have heavy skeletonization on the show side scale and pocketing on the lock side and on the lock bar right there to reduce weight as much as you possibly could, especially being that you have this nice broad blade. Bring you to 111.1 grams or 3.91 ounces. All right, now let's take a look at the lockup. Mine sitting at around 50 to 60% or so. Access to the lock bar, even though it's flush with the show side scale, you got a nice chamfer right there on both sides. I can easily get my thumb in there to disengage that lock, no problem. The lockup on mine, bank vault. I can't muscle any movement side to side, left to right. Very tight lockup. Love seeing that. And if for any reason that lock bar ended up traveling over 100%, you do have a hardened stainless steel lock insert that could easily be changed out, so you wouldn't have to get a whole new lock side or anything. Now for some quick size comparisons, we had the Kunwu Padre and we had the Kunwu Geezer. The full size Padre obviously is going to be bigger, and the Geezer is just a little bit bigger. Next up, we have the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. It's a little bit bigger than the Rat 2. Next up, we have the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3. It's pretty much identical in length to the Para 3. And lastly, we have the Hogue Ritter RSK and Mini RSK. It's a little bit bigger than the Mini RSK. All right, now for my nitpicks complaints. I think we talked about all of them, but we'll go over them again. Would love to see a flat spot put underneath this pocket clip so that texture doesn't eventually shred up the pocket. And I would really love to see the lock bar relief cut out done on the inside. It wouldn't break up this texture at all. You wouldn't have to worry about your material, your pants getting bunched up in there whenever you're pulling it out. You know, I'm not saying it's going to do that, but you wouldn't even have to worry about that. And like I said, you would be able to keep this texture going all the way. You wouldn't have to break it up because of a lock relief cut, and it looks so much nicer and cleaner. And I guess if I want to be super nitpicky, T8 screws for the pocket clip as well, but I'm not really worried about that at all because you don't have to remove the pocket clip to take this knife apart. So my final thoughts, I know this is a premium knife. It's got premium blade steel, rock weld to the proper HRC. I think it's a really good looking knife. It's a very comfortable knife. It performed really well. It's nice and smooth, nice and solid, and nice and slicey. So you're going to have to decide if this price point's okay for you. You know, whenever it gets past a certain price point, it's hard to even say recommend because it's just going to depend on you, the person. You know, do I think it's worth it? Absolutely. I love the Padre series, and pretty much anything that he comes out with that looks like this, I'll probably try to get it if it doesn't get sent to me for a review. So yeah. Highly a fan of this one. And I'll tell you right now, the Compadre is going to kick the bigger brothers out of the pocket for a while. This one's just easier for me to carry. It's super comfortable. It's lighter. You know, I like all of them, but yeah, this one just makes a little bit more sense for my day-to-day carry, being that I wear lightweight shorts all the time. And this is the only one that I have with that DLC blade that looks absolutely amazing. So like I said earlier in the video, if you're interested in the Compadre, I'm pretty sure they're still in stock. I know they probably won't last a whole long time before they go out of stock. They do restock them pretty often, but if you are interested in one of these, I will have it linked down in the description. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave those down below. I hope every one of y'all is having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one.